Storytelling ain't rocket science, y'all. It's harder. And this is not some fluffy motivational speech about the arts. There is a psychological principle that proves that writing is more difficult to learn than rocket science. So if making progress as a writer feels up and down and sideways, there's a reason for that. Today I'm going to show you what that reason is and 3 things you can do to start growing as a writer instead of spinning your wheels. You have more control than you think. And when you see the big picture, writing progress will stop feeling random and start feeling achievable. All right, y'all, let's take a deep breath. You've made it to the writing woods. As always, there is no stress or pressure here. These woods are not judging you. They are not asking you to be anything other than what you are. For more calm support and community that actually leads to writing, instead of just feelings that you're not doing enough, join us at writingwoods.com, where we're having open discussions, keeping each other accountable, and making friends who care about building lifelong writing practices, just like we do. Let's talk about rocket science. Want to? When someone's learning about rocket science, patterns are stable. Gravity doesn't just suddenly increase on a Tuesday. Physics doesn't reinvent itself halfway through your degree. Feedback is immediate and accurate. The rocket either launches or it doesn't. That means learners gradually improve through experience. This is what psychologist Robin Hogarth calls a kind learning environment. Other examples of kind learning environments are golf and chess. In chess, masters develop pattern recognition, and over time, their experience allows them to anticipate what's coming and make better decisions. Same with golf. If the ball cuts left, you adjust your swing and that correction will still work tomorrow. In kind learning environments, what works today is likely to work again in the future. Writing is not like that. Writing is what Hogarth calls a wicked learning environment. In a wicked learning environment, feedback is delayed, inaccurate, or misleading. You can spend months or years working on a book without ever knowing if what you're doing is actually improving the story or whether you're becoming a better writer. Think about where a writer's feedback comes from. When we are learning and growing, we are constantly looking for feedback about whether what we are doing is right. If you make a chess move and you get checked by a piece you didn't notice, you can pretty well say, "Oops, that was wrong. I received very clear feedback that move was not the right one." When we're trying to learn and grow as writers, let's think about where our feedback comes from. The first feedback we receive is our own feelings about our work. Do you feel good about what you're writing today? Are you proud of it? Obviously, this is completely unreliable. I know we have all written things and thought this is the best thing since sliced bread, and looked back at it the next day and thought, was I on drugs? And we felt terrible about writing sessions, only to go back and realize that we actually were really moving the story forward. So our own feelings about our work are not reliable, especially in the moment. We also get feedback from beta readers who often have very different opinions from one another. Beta feedback doesn't really tell us about good or bad. It just tells us about those readers' experiences. Of course, we get very clear feedback from industry gatekeepers, agents, publishers, but that feedback is about a lot more than the objective quality of the work. There are so many factors that go into an acceptance or a rejection that it's difficult to glean any actionable insights or understanding of our overall growth as a writer from that kind of feedback. And of course, we get feedback from readers who react based on personal taste, trends, and cultural context. None of these things are as simple and clear-cut as a chess move resulting in a checkmate or a rocket launch simulation. When writers receive feedback, it is filtered through a dozen different lenses. Reader response theory says it requires a writer and a reader to complete a piece. 2 different readers, or even the same reader at different moments in their life, will experience a story in completely different ways. On top of that, storytelling is contextual. What's going on in the world? What are the trends, the cultural moments? What are readers used to seeing? All this changes constantly, and we can't predict the shifts. So the lesson you learned on your last story may not apply to the next one. You can do everything the same and still get a completely different result. If a rocket scientist uses the same numbers, they're going to get the same results. And that just doesn't hold true for writers. So, writing is hard. Great. What do we do with that? Because y'all, I am not switching to rocket science. So we need a way to make this wicked learning environment more manageable. Let's talk about 3 ways to do that. Number 1, embrace the wickedness. The moment you start expecting immediate, reliable feedback as a writer, you will get frustrated. Instead, learn to play the long game. Accept that most lessons you learn won't apply immediately or even directly to your next project. That's part of the process. And here's the biggest trap. Most of us grew up in kind learning environments, memorizing multiplication tables, practicing sports where reps teach objective lessons. In those environments, we learn that feedback is trustworthy. We adjust and we improve. And we carry that lesson into our writing practice, where it just doesn't apply. When you receive negative feedback from a beta reader, from an agent, recognize it for what it is: information, not a commandment. Let's say you get feedback that a particular scene was too slow. The reader felt like it dragged on. In a kind learning environment, you could take that feedback and log it as Rule 57, keep a good pace. But that doesn't work with writing, because the next time you write a scene, you might get feedback that it felt rushed and the reader couldn't connect with the character. Those 2 scenes are not the same, and pretending they are will keep us spinning in circles. Number 2, work smarter in a wicked environment. You cannot remove all the chaos from the writing process, but you can control the way feedback enters your radar. Instead of waiting months for feedback on your novel, create short-term feedback loops. Write short stories, share scenes with your writing communities, or test individual chapters. The feedback won't be perfectly accurate. It never is in a wicked learning environment. But by increasing the volume of feedback, you'll start to see patterns. Your beta readers fit right into this. Find a small, consistent group who reads in your genre and treat their input as data points rather than truths. The goal is to see trends over time, not to react to any one opinion. We can't make the feedback we receive on our writing more reliable, but we can cut the time between work and feedback. If you need help finding beta readers and workshopping your stuff, we've got forums specifically for this at writingwoods.com. And number 3, this one is important, y'all. Build kind systems within your wicked writing process. Even within a wicked learning environment, you can create kind systems for yourself. The easiest way to do this is to focus on the process rather than the outcome. We may not be able to reliably determine whether a scene was good, but we can definitively know whether a scene exists. Focus on showing up to write and build systems around what you can control. Daily rituals and small, repeatable actions give you immediate and measurable feedback. If you are working toward becoming a better writer, you are living in a wicked learning environment. Writing lessons will rarely apply to every piece you create, but developing a writing practice can be kind. The lessons you learn about how to show up for your writing will serve you day after day. And over time, you will only get better at that process. And I know some days just showing up can feel as difficult as the writing itself. I have a very simple, practical method to help your brain understand that showing up is success. Every day you show up to write, even if it's just writing one sentence, drop a paperclip in a jar. That trains your brain to actually celebrate showing up. And rather than using rewards or gamification, it connects the dopamine hit to the act of writing itself. not to the reward you get afterward. And because of that, it doesn't make writing an obstacle to your reward. I've got a whole video about the psychology behind that technique, so I'll drop that link below. The truth is there are no shortcuts to becoming an impactful, artful writer, but we can absolutely improve our writing process. Show up consistently, focus on what you can control, and over time, you'll become a more productive, confident writer. And that can only mean good things for your storytelling. So yeah, writing is not rocket science. A rocket scientist can actually trust the feedback they receive. They can use it to get better over time, and they know that gravity won't suddenly shift. Writers don't have that luxury. We are trying to grow in a world where up can become down, and there is no guarantee that the lessons we learn today will apply tomorrow. But we can embrace the wickedness of our learning environment, understanding that storytelling is a living thing. It will change, and we get to change with it. We can create short-term feedback loops to increase the amount of feedback we receive and start seeing patterns. And we can create kind systems for ourselves, focusing on the elements of our writing practice that don't change. Prioritize showing up for your writing and becoming good at the process. And next time you feel like a failure or like writing comes easier to everybody else, remember this: writing is harder to learn than rocket science. It is a puzzle we can never solve, but that means we get to keep piecing together different, beautiful pictures, constantly changing, constantly growing. And that is why it's so rewarding.